This dynamic is about to change entirely. Before we get to today's video, I want to take a moment to talk about Patreon. That's right, we are on Patreon now, and we have a bunch of tiers with a bunch of great rewards. You can subscribe and get things like early access to all reactions, depending on your tier, depends on which reactions you get early access to. You can vote on polls exclusive to patrons that will help determine future reaction series and more. You will get to just have various choices in terms of like getting to choose future reactions I react to, getting to choose first impressions I check out, all kinds of different rewards, and possibly more coming in the future. We're still new at this. We're still figuring things out. It's a process. It's a process. But we have multiple tiers, so whatever you would be able to donate, if you're able and willing to donate, is appreciated. It helps me out, it helps the channel out, it helps us grow. It's going to help just, standardly. It's just something new to check out. Plus, if you like getting the reactions early, that's also a plus. But it is optional. If you're unable to do it, that's completely fine. All reactions will come to YouTube just a little bit later, a week later or so. So that all being said, thank you as always so much, and let's get on with today's video. And with that all being said, hey everyone, welcome to Princess Gay. I'm your host Connie, and today we are here with my blind reaction to episode 3 of Gnosia. So last time we just kind of got the same basic thing, another loop, and really Yuri just getting used to there being more of these loops and revealing everything to the others, which was a little bit of a surprise. Didn't end up helping in the end because they thought that the Gnosia was going to be the same person again. That's not how this goes. It's going to be different every time, and we find that out. It was a little more obvious in episode 2 who the Gnosia was going to be, that it was going to be Yuri, not Yuri, the other girl. Or, not girl, you know what I mean. Shit. Again, if I make any mistakes with the pronouns or gender or anything, I apologize ahead of time. But yeah, the other one, they were obviously going to be the Gnosia this time because it's just the way the episode focused on them. And I think it was intentional. Like, it's supposed to be obvious that time around. Because the idea is that Yuri is not, like, paying enough attention to that kind of stuff because they're so focused on who they think it is and so focused on the fact that they're in a time loop that that's the only thing on their mind. So, to us as viewers, it's supposed to be obvious because we're seeing it through less clouded eyes, and so we can spot all of the, like, obvious signs. But from here on out, it gets a little more tricky because we have new characters being introduced, and as we've seen with the opening, there's quite a few characters who are going to be introduced. It seems like we're still having the same amount per loop. Seems like it's still going to be 4 every loop, so that's, at least for now, not changing. Maybe it will, but it's going to make it certainly interesting to bring in all these different characters. Yuri's going to have to, and us as viewers are going to have to kind of start to get their personalities down, start to, like, figure out how we'll be able to tell when something's off. And by the end of the season, I feel like we're going to be able to realize a lot more who it's going to be. We might even have a loop at the end that is like intentionally a lot harder to tell. And we're supposed to use our knowledge that we've gotten throughout the season to figure it out. Now, I posited the question last time, what if Yuri themselves is the Gnosia? I assume if that happens in the series, it's going to be a case of everything's going to seem normal, but there again might be one or two little hints there. And it's going to be playing as like the same as always. Yuri's going to be trying to figure out who the Gnosia is and being like, paranoid of everyone. But then at the end, it's going to reveal no, it was actually Yuri this time. I assume it's going to happen at some point. I feel like it has to, right? The only problem with this idea is that for the time loop to continue at that point, Yuri would have to still be the one who dies. Because Yuri doesn't loop back to the beginning unless they die. And if they're the Gnosia, then they're not going to be dying. Unless they're found out and killed. Or put onto the freeze. Maybe that's where it's going to go, to where it's like there's two left and they end up being... But no, there can't be two left. If there's only two left, then the Gnosia attacks. Unless whoever otherwise survives is able to fight them off and get them into one of the cryopods. I don't know. Again, I expect it to happen at some point. I just don't know exactly when. But we'll see how it goes down when we get to that point. So for now, we have two new characters. One was the like gray alien, the stereotypical gray alien type of character. And the other one was just another person who we haven't really met yet and don't really know anything about. So it's going to be interesting to see how these characters fit into the dynamic. And how it changes the ease at which we figure this all out. Right now, it's pretty much been like a loop per episode. I wonder if we're going to change that at any point to where like a loop is going to last longer. The problem is I don't know how it will, because it's like they're on a set time every time. Unless that changes too. Or unless like anime timing comes into play and they just start dragging it out forever. I don't know. I don't know what this series plans on doing, because I don't know what the visual novel did. And like I've said before, I don't want like spoilers. So don't tell me any information regarding what the visual novel did, unless it's like just comparing to like this point in the series. Like, I just don't want spoilers. Just don't spoil me for anything coming in the future, any big reveals or anything like that. But if you're just talking about like the events of like what happened within this kind of loop and all, that's fine. But yeah, I'm just letting you know ahead of time, because by the time I'm recording this, episode 2 hasn't even gone live on YouTube yet. So, I know that episode 1 actually got a surprisingly large audience, and I'm just trying to let you guys know. I appreciate it. I just please try not to spoil anything. Because, like, while the visual novel probably uses this time loop mechanic as just part of the gameplay, it's like, for the sake of this anime, it's like, I want to remain spoiler free because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what to expect. And some of the loops coming up might be like specific parts from the light or the visual novel, and I don't want to know like any kind of big character moments or spoilers regarding characters. So just yeah. I want to learn about these characters, learn about their dynamics, learn about all of that stuff on my own. Um, so, yeah. That being said, we're going to get into this, but before we do, I do just really quickly want to plug the Patreon again, because for all those watching, the Patreon is new, so I'm going to be plugging a little more right now. Um, but the Patreon has early access. So if you want to see Gnosia and other series and movies and just other reactions early, you can check out the Patreon. Series reactions start at the $10 a month tier. But there are multiple tiers that give various types of early reactions, various types of other rewards, like getting to vote on exclusive polls, getting to choose stuff for me to be able to react to in the future, and so on and so forth. Each reward is labeled with what it gives, and it's a completely optional thing. All reactions will come to YouTube. This is just a way for you to get reactions early, as well as a way to support the channel, because every bit of support helps, and it allows us to keep things going. So, that all being said, let's get to today's reaction and see what this episode has in store for us. Hold up just a sec. Before you click that link down in the description below to get to today's video, I want to remind you of all the awesome content we have both on this channel and the Princess of Gaming channel. Let's check it out. And welcome to the Afterthoughts. We will begin with spoilers in 3, 2, 1, now. So that's fascinating. That ending changes, like, everything more than even just the addition of more players does. So, we start off the episode with the introduction of 2 new crew members. But what I thought was going to happen is not what happened. I thought we were going to have a situation where we were going to get like 2 of the crew members replaced. We had Setsu, and then we had the introduction of Shigemichi and Stella. I thought that we were going to replace Gina and Rakio, but no. Instead, we just get 2 more. So that's fascinating. That we're just adding members instead. And we see that there's some pretty interesting characters right off the bat. Stella seems to be in love with Yuri, at least in the first loop we had in this episode. And Shigemichi's kind of a little bit of a goofball, a little bit of a weirdo. And apparently he is human, and the alien gray-like appearance is due to a false skin that he wears due to an accident he suffered under. We don't know the details of which right now, but yeah, that's really fascinating in and of itself. And so we have to kind of like figure out new information with our new crew members, but also utilize what we know about the old ones. The problem is there were 2 Gnosia in that loop. In both of the first 2 loops of this episode, not counting the 3rd loop that we started at the very end. But there's like 2 Gnosia now, and that's very different, because the fact that you can eliminate a Gnosia right at the beginning and not even know it makes it a very dangerous game. Because you might not have eliminated the Gnosia. And that ends up proving to be the case by the end of the first loop. We see that the Gnosia ends up being Gina and Stella. And so the fact that Stella in the second loop isn't in love with Yuri, I wonder if the love was the giveaway then? Maybe Stella's not supposed to be in love with Yuri, and that was kind of the giveaway that they were, you know, the Gnosia. As for Gina, that one Yuri was able to guess. Because Yuri, when questioning them, noticed the way Gina spoke and the way they reacted, and was able to deduce information from that. Unfortunately, with these discussion points, you just don't get enough time to really convince people. It's just such a short amount of time to actually go through this information. And in the end, with 2 Gnosia, if you still have 4 people left, it's over. If both Gnosia are still there. Because it's just the amount of Gnosia and the amount of humans have to be the same for the Gnosia to win. And that's what happened. And so that loop ended up being a wash. And so then we got our second loop of the episode. And this one played pretty much the same as the first in terms of the players and all. But it added a new element, the engineer. So obviously this episode really confirmed the comparison to like the social deduction game Ultimate Werewolf, which is a basically card-based social deduction game. You're handed out like cards that you have to keep secret from everyone else that tells you your role. You're like a werewolf or a hunter or a villager or so on and so forth. And the goal of the social deduction game is to find and eliminate the werewolf or werewolves without them taking you out and all. I've played it a few times. It's not something I'm super into because if I'm being completely honest, I'm not great at it. But it's interesting. So it's like this series seems to be kind of like combining Ultimate Werewolf with Among Us and just kind of like going off of that general idea of things. Which, I mean, even Among Us is like inspired by like John Carpenter's The Thing as well, so you could also throw that in there as an inspiration. It's really interesting, to say the least, as a concept. But anyway, going back to the second loop, the engineer is a role given to a human player. Presumably, it can only be a human player, but it allows the player to be able to, during the warp only, examine another player. They can only choose one player per day, which, causes problems for the timeline of things. And they can examine that player, and they will be told with 100% certainty if that player is human or Gnosia. It's a role that specifically gives you free information, but the problem is you then have to convince everyone else of that information, on top of convincing them that you are, in fact, the engineer. And with this loop, before Yuri can even reveal that they're the engineer, Rockio claims this. Rockio claims to be the engineer. And they discuss this briefly, and there's the question of it. Shigemichi sides with Yuri in this, and Rockio is eventually the one eliminated. But when Yuri is like looking at the information and choosing who to examine closer, they find out that Shigemichi is actually the one who is actually one of the only two people who voted for Yuri, for them. And so that makes Shigemichi suspicious because it contradicts what Shigemichi was saying during the meeting. Yuri puts together then that Shigemichi is most likely a Gnosia, and that Rakio was the other one, and that they were working together, that this was this entire kind of plan put in motion to accuse others. And this ends up convincing everyone else. They vote for Shigemichi, and it proves correct. Yuri actually correctly deduced this. Shigemichi and Rakio were the two Gnosia. They won. But unfortunately, that doesn't stop the loop, and that's very fascinating. That means one of two things in my eyes. Either one, the loop has some other condition for being broken. It's not about surviving. The loop requires something else to be done, something else to occur. And we have no idea what that could be. The second option is that it just doesn't matter, and you're going to loop no matter what. That this cube or whatever it was will automatically cause whoever has it to loop anyway. And since Yuri currently has that, like, within them and whatnot, they're going to loop no matter if they win or lose. Which means that they would have to win and get rid of that, right? In order to stop the loop. But how do they do that exactly? I don't know how all of that works exactly. Can they only get rid of the cube by giving it to someone else? Because Setsu gave it to Yuri. But if Yuri gives it to someone else, then that person would be in the loop, wouldn't they? Unless Yuri gave it to whoever was about to be frozen, but would that stop it? Or would then they just also be in the loop? There's a lot of questions that this kind of thing raises. And so it's like we don't have enough information. We don't have enough information yet on how this cube is even causing the loop. And what all of that is like dealing with. So at this moment, we can't really say. But the fact that the loop will still happen, from our perspective at this moment, even if they win, that raises a lot of questions, and that makes it almost seem pointless. Unless you can figure out what else needs to be done here. Now, at the very end, we get our brief look at the new loop, the next loop, the third one of this episode, and the first one of next episode. We get another new crew member. This person who has like this these bangs, and they seem to instantly be accusing Yuri, like with just no evidence or something. But like right off the bat, like right when Yuri awakens, this person is right there and saying, "Oh, you're going to be frozen." Now that could be suspicious in their own right, or we might be getting into something a little more nuanced and interesting here. We don't know if we're going to still have the same amount of crew members. We don't know how the crew dynamic is going to be in general. We don't know if we're even going to have an engineer again, or if there's going to be any other roles added. There's so many, like, unknowns with how this is going to go now. What if we just keep adding crew members? What if it never, like, goes back down to, like, just a few of them, and it just continues to add more instead of, like, just taking away or replacing? So, like, instead of 7, what if we have, like, 8 or 9 now? What if we eventually go to having, like, upwards of 15? that would obviously make things more interesting and make things more dangerous, because that would also require the addition of more Gnosia, right? So that's fascinating if that's what they do. But if they do like start actually replacing people and only go up to a certain amount, that could be fascinating in and of itself as well. Because then it's like, oh, Yuri goes in and finds out that, oh, Setsu is not in this loop at all. Or Gina is not in this loop at all, or so on and so forth. That's very much a possibility. And the problem is, if more people are added, it also makes it harder to deduce things. The more people that are in there, the more difficult it is, because there's just not enough time for everybody to get their voices out, for everybody to get their thoughts and opinions through. So there's a lot of questions that are going to be raised from this kind of situation. And I don't know what to expect. If I'm being honest, I don't know what to expect. And I'm just hoping that it continues to be this fascinating, this entertaining, this quality. Because I'm enjoying the shit out of this so far. Even if I'm not, like, great at the social deduction thing. Like, I was thinking, like, oh, I think Shigamichi is one of the Gnosia, but I don't think Rakio is. I was thinking that was, like, a red herring, and that that was going to end up being wrong. But no, it actually ended up being the case. I never claimed to be good at these kind of things, so... um, but that's not what, like, really fascinates me about this series. Because I don't have to be good to enjoy this. I don't have to, like, be able to socially deduct things myself. I'll try, but the appeal of this series for me comes from Yuri's perspective of it all. And how they're, like, anticipating and figuring everything out based on what they're learning. And again, I'm trying to go along with them, but there's some things I'm just not going to get. Some things I'm not going to be able to realize. So I'm just more into it for the hype, I guess. Than actually, like, trying to legitimately be a part of the mystery. But either way, this is just continuing to be, like, pretty fantastic. So tell me in the comments below what you thought of this episode of Gnosia. As always, no spoilers. I do not want to know anything about where this is going to possibly go. But I would love to hear your thoughts on, like, the changes that this loop brought upon us, and how, or these loops actually, and just how this is changing over time. But again, no actual spoilers for anything to come. For now, thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Connie, and I'm signing off. See y'all next time.